That's all I was able to find easily in the beginning. But then, okay, so let's talk about cousins. That's where I decided to go next on my journey to find Lawrence. Well, more information on Lawrence, right? Okay, here's what I did. I went through my DNA matches, right? What I love that Ancestry allows you to do is you can look through your matches. You can specify which side you want to look at. So maternal matches, paternal matches. I'm looking for my mama's side. So you can look through your matches and you can search, you can filter your search by seeing A, who has a public tree. Boom, that's what I did. Click that button. B, shared surnames or just a surname in this person's tree. So I typed in the last name Hamlin to see which of these matches to my maternal side had the last name Hamlin in their public trees, right? And I found quite a few matches with the last name Hamlin in my family tree. I was looking at each individual match tree to see how far back their Hamlin goes. If I can find any Hamlins born in the mid 1800s, there might be a connection. I found a couple. Now, how did I find out that the Hamlins that I found in these family trees, these men in particular, born in the 1800s, were Lawrence's brothers? Let's take it there. Let's pause for a second and let's talk about cousin relationships. It's the largest relationship in your family connection you will ever have. You can only have 2 parents biologically. You can only have 4 grandparents biologically, and so on and so forth. You can have literally a million cousins or more, right? So let's talk about types of cousins in those relationships. So your first cousin, it's the closest cousin that you're aware of, right? So your first cousin is the child of one of your parents' siblings. So one of your aunt and uncle, or one of your aunt or uncle's children. Now, what is a second cousin? Second cousins are, if, boom, 2 first cousins, me and my first cousin. We have a child, we both have children. My children and my first cousin's children would be second cousins, okay? And if they had children, my grandchildren and my first cousin's grandchildren would be third cousins to each other. So our children would be second cousins to each other. We are first cousins to each other, right? Now it continues to go on in 4th and 5th and 6th. Now going down or going back. First cousins share grandparents. Second cousins share great grandparents. Now let's talk about removals, okay? I can't speak for anybody else but myself, but I always grew up with the notion that removals wasn't a real thing. I thought it was a joke. I really did. Oh, this is your so-and-so cousin second removed on your mom's side. Like, what is that? I never understood what that meant. I honestly thought it was a joke. But in Ancestry, I realized, oh no, it's a real thing. So let's break down removals. So again, me and my first cousin, we're first cousins to each other because our parents are siblings and we share the same grandparents, right? We have children. They are second cousins to each other, but here's where the removal begins. It's based on generation. Even though my child and my first cousin's child are second cousins to each other, I am the first cousin once removed to my first cousin's child because we're one generation separated. And my first cousin would be my child's first cousin once removed. Okay? Our children have children. So I would be the first cousin twice removed from my first cousin's grandchild. And they would be the first cousin twice removed to my grandchild. I hope it's not too confusing, but yeah, that's how the removals work. So when you start seeing third cousin, fourth cousin, fifth cousin, you can kind of figure out how to trace that back, right? And then when you see the removals, you know it's by generation, right? That makes sense. I hope so. Give me a second. Okay, I had to do a little bit of confirmation. So, one of the matches that I found was actually my third cousin twice removed. So let's take that back. You guys have been watching the other videos. I gave you the line of who I come from as far as the Hamlins go. So if this person, let's just call them person A. If person A is my third cousin twice removed, that means him and my mom are third cousins once removed, which means him and my grandfather James are third cousins straight, which means my great grandfather Moses and person A's father, person A's parent, and my great grandfather Moses are second cousins, right? Which means person A's grandfather and my great great grandfather Lemuel are first cousins, which means his great grandfather and my third great grandfather Lawrence would be siblings. Boom. So I looked at this person's family tree and I saw an Edgar Hamlin listed in his tree. Then I saw that there was also a Judge Hamlin in his tree, but where Judge was placed, I don't think it was correct based off of the year that Judge was born. So I said, either this is just another person with the last name Hamlin, but I had to remember, every single person with the last name Hamlin is related some way, somehow. So that's family. Now it's just determining whether or not this person is a sibling of my third great grandfather, Lawrence. Another match that I found was a third cousin once removed, which means his great grandparent and my great great grandparent, Lemuel, are siblings. They're brothers. So this is actually, the person I found is a descendant of Charlie Hamlin, the same Charlie Hamlin that I mentioned in the last video, who is Lawrence and Amy's last child before Amy passed away. Something that Ancestry also does that I thought was really cool is something called through lines that allows you to see how you may be related to a DNA match based on a common ancestor. How dope is that? So I saw that they have Lawrence and Amy listed in their tree, and that's how through lines is able to pick up like, oh, here's how you two might be related. You have two of the same people in your tree. Here's the connection. So I messaged them. Don't be afraid to message your DNA matches, but I messaged them to see if they knew any more information on Lawrence or Amy. They also hit the same brick wall as I did. But when I kept hitting, some slight brick walls on my matches on Ancestry, I said, okay, let me try unusual routes. Let me try Google. Let me try Facebook groups. There's a lot of, what I recently learned, a lot of family pages on Facebook groups. And that's actually where I got a lot of luck. There was a Hamlin family page, and when I clicked into it to look at the description of the page, it said the Hamlins between Timminsville and Florence, like Timminsville and Effingham, Florence and Darlington, South Carolina. I'm like, I think this is my family. And there were pictures in there, and I'm like, oh my goodness, okay. I requested to join the group because it was a private group, of course. And I told them what information I do have, asked questions, and I was actually connected to another cousin who was another descendant of Charlie. And she helped me put together some of the siblings that were confirmed. She led me to another cousin who I actually knew from my mom. They grew up together, and she knew a lot about the family. When I spoke to her, she told me that she was told by elders when she was younger, yeah, there were at least 3 brothers, Lawrence, Judge, and Edgar. Edgar was the youngest, Lawrence was the oldest, Judge was in the middle. And she gave me years. Lawrence was born in 1854. I did not know that before. This was confirmed by elders, and she's the person that I was speaking to. My cousin is an elder to me. She's a little bit older than my mom, so she remembers being a little girl and hearing about these 3 brothers. And I'm like, oh my gosh, okay, great. So I've confirmed Lawrence, Edgar, and Judge. So let me see if I can just find more information on them. And I did. There is a website called familysearch.org. Could be .com. I would have to double check that, but I'll put the link in the bio. But it's one of the things that has helped me immensely in this process because it's free, and I personally believe that the records were the records were really skimmed through and recorded properly. Like sometimes there will be names on Ancestry that don't match what's typed up. Like, but that's also understandable. Sometimes you can't read people's handwriting, and a lot of the like census records and birth certificates, death certificates, they were handwritten back then, so they weren't always that legible. FamilySearch.org has so many more records than the Ancestry actually has on file, and it's worldwide, right? And I think that they actually recorded it properly as far as being able to read it back and see what's what, who's who, and connect it to the right line on each thing, on each document. And oh my goodness, it was a lifesaver. That's where I began to look into the details and the backgrounds and the possible marriages and children of the other two brothers that I was able to confirm. And that's where everything started to blow up in the best way.